It really is. I think belief is a seed. And so many of us have negative seeds planted in us when we're young that we continue to water. And then we wonder why we don't believe in ourselves.
So how does someone find the root cause? If you don't understand the roots, you can't produce the fruits.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Alan and I are in a giggly mood because I tried to do the introduction 4 different times, and I have jeffed it every single time, and then Alan and I were laughing. It was a whole thing. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. Last week's live podcast, Overcoming the Ego You Think You Don't Have. That was a challenging episode from the prep perspective and the delivery perspective as well. Today, for episode number 905, the 3 most valuable questions we could come up with. Alan, you want to preface why we're doing this?
Yeah, so I came to Kev today. I think it was this weekend. And as you know, on Sunday's episode, we repurposed an episode where you were interviewed. And I was thinking to myself, what if we did an episode? We haven't done one of those episodes in a long time where I interview Kevin or where Kevin interviews me. And so that's not what this is going to be. But what I was thinking is, what if we came into this asking each other the question, 3 questions that we believe would bring as much value out of the other person for the listeners as possible. And so here we are. We're going to do that. And it's going to be a little bit of a different format, but I'm going to hammer my first question if that's cool.
Oh, cool.
So this is a long question, and I want to preface this with, Kev, take your time on figuring out your answer. So if we have to hold space and we have to laugh or whatever, like, just do it, but think about this. Okay, number 1. After thousands and thousands of hours of interviewing, coaching, and studying individuals from all over the world, what's the one most common misunderstanding that people, including old Kevin, are genuinely held back by?
Okay.
Take your time. It's all good.
Honestly, I think that one's pretty easy for me. Only because I've been talking about this thought process a lot lately. I think the understanding for most human beings is where I am today really dictates where I can go in the future. And I remember Alan and I, we talked about this at one point. I don't remember the book. I should really figure it out so I can actually give credit to whoever wrote the book. But they put somebody under an fMRI machine, their brain under an fMRI machine, and they said, imagine yourself, I think, in 5 years. And I don't know how they measured it. I don't know the stats behind this. Alan's way more that side of the things than I am. But it basically equated to the person imagining a completely different human being, not even themselves. And I think that the misunderstanding is how much progress you can make as a human being. Because you really only see people who are winning at the compound effect, who have done whatever they're doing for years and years and years and years. And it almost seems like they hit overnight success, and it doesn't seem like it's accessible to you. You don't hear of an artist, and then an artist goes viral, and then they're selling out stadiums, and then they're a platinum selling artist, and they're on the radio, and they're doing all these things and these collaborations, and they're at the MTV Music Awards. But little do most people know that that artist has been doing music for the last 15 years. Nobody knew about it. And I think that's what it is. I think that so many people see where they are today, and that dictates the shot that they're willing to take into the future. And I know that's where I was for sure. There's 0% chance if you told me we'd be where we are today that I would be able to consciously believe that. There's no way. Because it's even hard to look back. I don't remember a lot of my old thought processes, or I don't remember a lot of my old limiting beliefs. That's part of it too. So that's it for sure. Hands down, there's too much contrast, I'll speak for myself, from where I was to where I wanted to go, and I had no idea what it would take to close that distance. I had no idea how long it would take. I didn't even know if I was capable of doing so. So that would be my answer.
Fire.
My first question for you.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's like we're on Jeopardy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me. What is the number one thing missing from most humans' lives?
I didn't know this always. I think that I used to believe that everybody had self-belief. So when I first met you and you said you wanted to be Joe Rogan, I used to believe that you actually intended on trying to do that.
Mm.
And not only that, but I actually believed that you were willing to do what it takes and kind of knew what it would take and were actually intending on that. I think that people are missing self-belief. And it's the same as your answer. It's when you have self-belief, it's hard to understand what it's like not to have that. And because I have self-belief, I think I assumed when other people said things. So I don't say goals that I don't intend on doing. So I'll give an example. So for a very long time, I intended on getting my pro card to be a professional athlete in natural men's physique competitions. When I said I wanted to be a professional athlete and that was a childhood dream, I didn't say that hoping that it would work out or hoping that it would happen. I said that with the intention of actually going out and doing that because I really not only believed that it was possible, but I've already kind of reverse engineered how I'm going to go about it. Now, do I have every little detail figured out? No. I think it comes down to exactly what you just said, which is other people are saying futures they want, but they're not necessarily intending on it. On our NLU team dashboard, we have what we refer to as the manifestation equation. And I thought recently about changing it to the achievement formula, but I don't want to. I think manifestation implies that you're going to think about it and it's going to work out and it's going to be attracted into your life. That's not what manifestation actually is. Manifestation is imagining yourself in advance, setting an intention, paying attention, doing what it takes to get there, figuring it out, learning along the way, taking action, massive action, getting feedback. It's the scientific method. I have a hypothesis. I believe this will work out. I'm going to go do some tests. I'm going to find and observe the data and then figure out where I was off. It's like making chocolate cake and then making chocolate cake a little bit better next time and a little bit better next time and a little bit better next time. And so what are people missing from their lives? They're missing actual self-belief. And by actual self-belief, what I mean by that is when Emilia and I decided together to get our PhD in neuroscience, neither one of us was hoping we could go do that. We weren't like, oh, I hope it works out, or I hope we can do that. We genuinely were just like, okay, let's do this together. Do you want to do this together? And we were both like, okay, yeah, let's do this together. The only way that won't happen is if we decide we don't want to do that anymore. Just like my pro card. I'll circle back to that. I decided that going out to get my pro card was no longer in alignment with what I believe is greatest potential, greatest contribution, and greatest quality of life. And so I used to believe that everyone has self-belief. I think that if you don't actually have self-belief, it's hard to know that you don't have it. And if you do have self-belief, it's actually hard to know when other people don't. Because, Kev, if I could talk to myself 5 years ago when you and I first met, I would say, Alan, just understand that he's saying he wants to be like Joe Rogan, but he doesn't actually intend on that. And I never said I want to be like Tony Robbins. I intend on being like Tony Robbins. I don't know if that will ever fully land for someone who doesn't have the level of self-belief that I have, but that's what is missing from people's lives is if you don't have self-belief, like if everything I just said doesn't resonate, and it's like, oh my God, that's not me. That's okay. You can build it. You can build it. So that fMRI that Kevin mentioned, there are some people who can do 1 year out, some people 2 years out, some people 3 years out, some people 5 years out, some people 10 years out. If you can't think 15 moves ahead in chess, that's okay. Only a grandmaster chess player can do that. But that doesn't mean you can't think 3 moves out and then eventually 4 and then eventually 6 and eventually 8. So just because I'm able to think 15 moves ahead, I think I presuppose that everyone was doing that. And that was very untrue. And now in hindsight, reflecting on my life, it's very clear that almost no one was doing that. And I think that me understanding that helps me realize that that is what's missing. That is what's missing. I think self-worth and self-belief are the two things that are the most critical to whether or not you're going to achieve your goals and dreams. And if you don't have self-belief, you're not even going to set real goals. You're going to just hope and wish, but not necessarily put in the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to actually manifest.
So I have I'll just say it's a part 2 of that question.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody have the level of self-belief you do. And I also don't know if most human beings will ever get to see the amazing upsides of that, but also the darker downsides of that. What is the number one downside of having that level of self-belief?
2 came to mind, and I've never been asked this question live or on a podcast public platform before. So the first one that came to mind is, now I understand this, I didn't always, it makes you unbelievably unrelatable because so few people actually have that, and it makes you seem very arrogant, especially early in the journey. So for example, and this will sound wild, but I told Kev, I said, someone has to colonize Mars. If it's not Elon, someone's going to do it, right? So it might as well be Elon. And I'm not colonizing I'm not colonizing Mars because I don't think it's possible. I'm not colonizing Mars because that's not my unique purpose in the world. My mission is to bring personal development to the entire globe because I think that's the root cause of human suffering, not because I don't think it's possible or I don't think it's possible for me. And so the number one downside is unrelatability, not understanding how other people think. The second downside, and this is a really dark one that I don't know if people will understand unless they have a high level of self-belief. So let's rate it from 0 to 10. If your self-belief is level 9, that means that almost the entire world is available to you. But guess what that means? You now have 100,000 options. I could be in any industry. I could write a book. I could write a sonnet. I could whatever. Everything's an opportunity. People don't understand the weight of that. See, when you don't think you are capable of much, you don't have many options. And so it's easy to hang out. It's easy to relax. It's easy to not have to face tough feedback and mirrors and challenges. If you don't believe you can get in shape, you don't have to go to the gym. You just won't, right? But when you know that you can be wealthy and influential and change the world, and then you don't, that eats away at your soul. And I think that that's why when I used to drink so much and so often, I was more relatable when I was drinking, but it ate away at me. It ate away at my soul because I knew deep down that I wasn't maximizing my potential. And luckily I turned that around after that car accident. But those are the 2 downsides. Number 1, you're not very relatable to the majority of people who really do struggle with self-belief but don't admit it. If you're a listener to this show, you're into personal development, so you've most likely admitted it. But I now understand a lot of people are out there pretending to believe in themselves, but their actions prove otherwise. If you really believed in yourself like you say you do, you'd have bigger goals. You know what I mean? I've never met someone who has level 10 self-belief and level 2 goals. That's not a thing, right? Like Tom Brady, for example, I know I use him too much, but he literally said when he graduated college, people said, you should really do a resume. Like, you should seriously consider. And he's like, why would I do my resume? I'm going to go play professional football. And he didn't get it. He didn't understand why they were saying, like, you should really have a backup plan. Because he just knew he would do it eventually. And he was right. You know, the downside is being unrelatable. And when everything's an option, it's very hard to just sit there and be less. It's almost impossible. It eats away at you.
The fact that you said, I've never been asked this podcast on a public platform before, means I did my job.
You did great. Okay. Fire. Number 2 for Kev. 3 each here. As someone who used to struggle so much with self-belief, I'm starting to realize what the title of this episode will be.
I told you we might change it.
Yeah. As someone who used to struggle so much with self-belief, and someone who now is probably on the higher statistical end of it, honestly, what can you share with our listeners or viewers that would help them understand the major difference between having it and kind of pretending to have it? Because I think for a while you pretended to have it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if I didn't pretend to have it, I don't think I would have attracted a lot of what I attracted into my life, especially you and I. I don't think we'd work together if I didn't pretend to have it. And I don't want to say I faked it till I made it, because I would admit that I was afraid. I would try to admit that I was afraid when I didn't believe.
Take your time, man.
Insert ad here.
Insert midtro.
Here.
I can read it again if you want.
Yeah, read it, hammer it one more time so I can really...
As someone who used to struggle so much with self-belief, and someone who now is probably on the higher statistical end of it, what can you share with our listeners or viewers that would help them understand the major difference that self-belief actually makes? Like, you've been on both ends of this. What's the difference?
I think the biggest difference is very much to what you were just talking about, is you have different possibilities that never seemed real. I think that I said this on a podcast the other day. I said I never enjoyed speaking. In high school, I think I gave however many presentations you give in high school. I never went to college. I never presented in front of people. And my first speech was in front of 50 people. My second speech was on the same stage as Evan Carmichael. My third speech was, I don't remember where it was. I think you and I were the Movement family, maybe. Right? So, I started speaking. We got a 50-person crowd in front of us, and then we were on stage with the same stage of Evan Carmichael and Eddie Pinheiro. And that really jeffs you. It really messes with your mind of, okay, I didn't even intend on being a speaker. How did I get here? So when you don't believe something is possible, and even when you start doing it, in a weird way, you almost still don't believe it. And I think you're afraid to lose it. I know for the longest time, my main thing was, I just need to get till tomorrow. I need to get to tomorrow. I need to get to tomorrow. And that was always because I was afraid this was all going to go away at some point, because I didn't have the belief to keep it. What I will say is this, being on both ends, this is all it is. You just have more proof one way or the other. That's all belief is, in my opinion. You just have more proof on not being able to do it than you do doing it. Or that's the way you're conditioned in terms of the way you were spoken to when you were young, or maybe you had a traumatic event happen. All it is one little mindset shift of, oh, so the last 15 years I've been looking at that one time I struck out in baseball. Or for the last 15 years, I've been looking at that one time where somebody said I wasn't good enough. Where imagine if somebody told you the opposite. Oh my goodness, you're one of the best baseball players I've ever seen in my entire life. Imagine what would shift in your life if that was the one thing that caused the last 15 years of you not believing in yourself. Imagine if you had a family member say, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're talented, you can accomplish whatever you want. It's just a seed. It really is. I think belief is a seed. And so many of us have negative seeds planted in us when we're young that we continue to water. And then we wonder why we don't believe in ourselves. And again, I'm just as, if not more, guilty of this than anybody else, because I said this again on a show the other day. For my life, I had so many people that supported me. I had so many people that believed in me. I was my biggest critic. Nobody ever told me I couldn't be successful, ever. Nobody ever said that to me. I said that to me.
Wild. Kevin,
Yeah.
I had the opposite. Genuinely.
I know.
My whole life was the opposite.
Yeah. And I wonder,
there's something to that.
what would have happened if you and I were in different positions. I don't know. But I know it's simplistic. I know it probably sounds too easy, but it really is. It's like, what's a good example of this? Okay. It's like when you're young, you're on soil and something happens and it digs a little hole. And then for the rest of your life, you feel like you have to be within that hole. Even though at any point you could try to dig a tunnel to the other side, or you could start building a ladder, it's like it compounds. It's like it compounds the negativity, the belief system, the inner dialogue, the mindset becomes very fixed. And I think it's, last thing I'll say, when you are used to and you believe things are going to go a certain way, they almost always do. Even if they go better, even if they go better than you expected, you might find a way to make them a negative experience. And that negative experience will stop you from trying again. And I always say this, there's a reason most of us learn to ride a bike when we're young. Because when you're old, you're more afraid of falling down. When you're older, you're more afraid of falling down in front of people. And honestly, if you took a header over the handlebars in front of a group of people, you probably wouldn't laugh it off and try again. You'd probably say, not going to do this. And I think that's why as you get older, it's harder to learn new things because you're way more afraid of what people think because you don't.
I had a major breakthrough when you were talking.
Yeah,
and I actually have a really exciting live event coming up in Boston. If you can come visit us, I'm joining my friends at Next Level University, and I would love to meet you all. And that is on March 26th. So get your tickets soon.
So, Kev, you didn't believe in yourself, and everyone believed you were capable of more, so they lifted you up and supported you and said, you can do it, you can do it. I believed in myself beyond what they believed for me. So of course they had to cut that down because it didn't fit into their belief system.
Yeah.
If I believe I can do something that they don't believe is possible, of course they are going to take wind out of that sails because they care about me. Whereas with you, if you believe down here and what's possible is here in their consciousness, of course they're going to lift you up.
Yeah. The through line of that whole thing is it doesn't really matter what other people think because
they don't know.
They don't know, and if you think of it like a bid, if I've had 25 years of negative bids towards belief, you telling me that I can do whatever I set my mind to isn't going to change much.
Yeah,
it's not going to.
It's
not going to change
doing
that much.
something small,
yes,
and proving to yourself over and over and over again. You build that relationship up. Kev, another question. This wasn't going to be my third, but I want to use this as my third because I know we're almost out of time here. My third question for you is this. Now that you do have self-belief and do believe things are possible that other people think are crazy, are you getting cut down more?
No, because I think like I always say, I have a very, very supportive group of human beings behind me. I have gotten rid of a lot of people who didn't believe in this. And again, I don't know. That's never really happened to me that much. I don't know if it's because people were afraid of me when I was whatever it was. I don't know. I never really had a lot of people that talked down to my dreams. Like they didn't understand, and some of my bosses were not nice people and they doubted me.
But when you said you were going to be like Joe Rogan, you got laughed at.
Yeah, but I think when people laughed at me, it didn't bother me because I didn't believe I was going to either.
Oh.
So it's not like it was, I'm going to show this person. It's like, yeah, but I'll probably get I'm going to get closer than you. Because you're not a podcaster.
What advice do you have for our listeners who want to set big goals, but when they talk about them, they get the wind taken out of their sails? You got to be really careful of that. Dude, if I didn't have the self-belief I have, I would have gotten... I told Emilia this recently. I said, I don't know how I made it out. That post I put on social media, dude, sometimes I wonder how in the hell I made it out of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's self-belief that pulled me through. Without that, dude, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that would have. So what do you say to our listeners who want to set big goals and dreams, but they get made fun of?
For me, and the advice that I've been trying to give, and this might sound too easy, or I don't know, it just might come off as non-constructive, but I think you have to empathize with the people who don't believe in you because more often than not, Alan, it's not you that they're talking to. So not only, it's very hard for somebody who doesn't believe in themselves to believe in you, especially if that means you're going to leave them behind. especially if that means that they're going to see less of you, especially if that means that there's an opportunity that you go out there and you get your ass kicked by the world. That's a huge part of it. I think of when I first started this journey, my grandmother said, you're going to go get another job, right? And I said, I will never, ever, I will never punch another time clock, no matter what. And I know she thought I was crazy, and I know she didn't believe this would work, but I understand why. Of course you didn't. Statistically speaking, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't work. Most people don't succeed at the level that we want to. And especially this is the other thing. You got to think of the version of Kevin that my grandmother knew. She didn't know the learning for 45 minutes a day, 20 habits, hanging out with you, interviewing millionaires and billionaires and authors and coaches and speakers and having awesome mentors. That's not the version of me that my grandmother knew. That was a new version. And if you don't know what I'm doing behind the scenes, how could you possibly know? And if you don't know what I've been exposed to, if you don't know that I have Alan mentoring me every day for the last 5 years, I just think that's a huge part of it. Honestly, you need to rid yourself of the need to hear that from other people. You do. You just do. Because eventually, 100%. When you do make it, you're going to get it on the other end. Why don't you slow down? Why don't you slow down? You made it. You're successful. You don't have to do this anymore. Or do you really need to do 7 episodes a week? Or it's all either a cry for your safety or a cry for their safety. It's one or the other. And honestly, sometimes you got to do the thing that's not safe if you really want to do your thing anyway. So that's what I would say. All right, I got to ask you a question because you're going to keep interviewing me here. You mentioned this in one of your answers. You said, I don't remember the exact phrase, but it was something along the lines of, you got to go down and get to the root cause. I've seen many people coach. I've worked with many people at this point. I don't know that anybody does this quite as well as you do. How does somebody get to the root cause of an actual issue? So if somebody's out there right now and they're getting results, insert results here, how do they get through the perceived thing and get to the actual root cause of why things are going the way they're going?
The first thing is understanding the value of it. If you don't know why the fish bit the hook, you can't replicate it. So a lot of people just don't understand the value of knowing why.
I didn't.
Understanding. So if my car breaks down, I bring it to a mechanic because the mechanic will know why it broke down, and it's because they know why it broke down, they know how to fix it. So if you don't know, for example, if you don't know why you're out of shape, you can't change it. I know why I'm out of shape, right? I don't think I'm out of shape, but like when I was out of shape, I knew why. I drank alcohol too much and too often. I didn't exercise. I ate too many calories. I know the exact reasons why. So I can change them. And if I tried to change and didn't change, I also knew why. Oh, okay, it's because habit change is hard. It's because of neural pathways. It's because of BIDS. It's knowledge. I know that people say knowledge isn't power, but I know that it's potential power. I realize that, okay? And the personal development industry has really messed up that saying a little bit. When you know exactly how to achieve something, you're not afraid to cook the chocolate cake. I'm not like hoping that the chocolate cake ends up good when I've done it before and I have the recipe. So how does you asked me how, of course I went to why. The first thing is you have to know the value of knowledge. If you don't know how to get wealthy, you're never going to get wealthy. There's a way to do it. There's a formula. Fulfillment is a formula. Fitness is a formula. Finance is a formula. Love, joy, happiness, all of it is a formula. And if you're unfulfilled, you're just running the wrong algorithm. You're running the wrong paradigm. Emilia and I are not like super happy and madly in love and sexually passionate like by default, by accident. We weren't like just born awesome. It's a formula. As a matter of fact, I can show you the numbers. It's called a love score. I have it all. And I sent her a pie chart this weekend to help me reanalyze because I've taken some time energy and money out of certain buckets and put them into others. I want to make sure those are doing the trick, for lack of better phrasing. I want to make sure those are fulfilling her cup. So how does someone find the root cause? If you don't understand the roots, you can't produce the fruits. And so I'll tell this brief story. Kevin and I, very blessed, we had $24,000 in one shot transferred into our bank account, which for us on this entrepreneurial journey was a lot. It's not going to be a lot later, but right now that was the most we'd ever gotten. And we were in the middle of prepping for a podcast, and Kevin's like, we had a really big week, and he told me the number, and I didn't change what I was doing at all. He's like, dude, you don't even care. And he was being playful. But what I said is I don't take my focus off of causes to celebrate effects. I was prepping for the podcast. This podcast and the impact that it provides to your life right now, watching and listening to this, that's the reason why we're successful. That money has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. So why would I take effort off of something that created that? And I think that people don't think that way necessarily. I used to think everyone thinks that way. I'll tell this brief story too. I remember I was on the beach with some old friends of mine, and there was this friend of mine who said that these babies were dying. There was like babies at hospitals. So his brother worked in the ER, and there were these babies that they didn't know why, but these babies kept dying of this thing. And he's like, yeah, no, none of the doctors could figure it out. Like, these babies they just die. And I'm like, that's not a thing. Like, just because you don't know the reason doesn't mean there isn't one. And so we had this huge debate of like, and I tried to explain it, like, people don't die for no reason. Like, there's a reason. We just don't know the reason yet. And this is why people at one point were trying to cure illnesses by putting leeches on our skin. That was a dumb idea because they didn't understand the real reason for the illness. They thought it was because of bad blood, and the leeches would get rid of the bad blood. And so everything on earth is cause and effect. Everything in your physique, in your life, in your fulfillment, in your fitness, in your finances, it's all cause and effect. And if you understand the causes and the effects and how they feed each other, you can manifest anything you want. And so how do you get to the root cause? You ask why. You ask why 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You need to understand why. Okay, Kevin and I are successful. Why? Well, we podcasted and did an episode a day every day for the last couple years. Why? Well, because we wanted to have an impact and bring personal development to the masses. It's like, why? It's like, well, because we both needed to be who we needed when we were younger. We grew up around a lot of pain and suffering, ignorance and apathy, and we want to make sure that we can solve that in the world. It's like, well, why? Because otherwise we're not maximizing our potential and greatest level of contribution. It's like, well, why? You have to understand all the layers. I don't understand life nearly as well as I'm going to at 34 and at 35. I just understand it way better than I used to. Right? That's why these episodes will keep getting better, because we're going to keep understanding life at a deeper and deeper and deeper level. You'll never get to a place in your life where you're done learning. There's no one on earth who, like, these phones aren't as good as they're going to be. This podcast isn't as good as it's going to be. There's never Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example. I'm creating one that I do believe is better. I'm not saying that because I'm arrogant. I'm saying that because I got to learn from Maslow's hierarchy and then make a better one. 21st century, more practical one. It's the pyramid of fulfillment. I'm writing my book on it. So you have to understand the value of deeper understanding. I don't think people value deeper understanding enough. And if they did, they'd be able to manifest whatever they want. And honestly, maybe that's the root cause of why people don't believe in themselves, is because if they knew how to do it, they wouldn't question it. Yeah. I don't like hope you and I are going to be millionaires. I know how to do it. Seriously, Kev, I know exactly how to do it.
I know.
It's not like you're going to make chocolate cake and then be shocked when you made chocolate cake.
Yeah.
You have the recipe, right? It's a formula. It's an algorithm, and you have to really uncover it repeatedly. Go ahead.
Lightning question here, okay? Because we're already like 35 minutes in, which I did not expect. What pisses you off the most about the self-improvement industry? Because you got fired up there. I know you got fired up a couple times when you were talking about the industry.
Yeah. I think that it's not truthful. It's not really truthful. A lot of it is fluffy and not truthful. It bothers me. There is a truth. Like, I know people are like, well, there's my truth and your truth. It's like, no, there's like the truth, right? Okay. We have recorded 900 podcast episodes. If you said, hey, we recorded 1,000, I'd say that's inaccurate. That's not truthful. So there is like a truth. And life is about the pursuit of that. And so the personal development industry, some people they're all expressing their truth, pretending it's the truth. And I think that there's a lack of humility in that. And I think it bothers me because it misguides people. I mean, if you're out there watching or listening to this, your parents might have done the best they can. They might have put their best foot forward, but they might have had a pretty terrible foot. Everybody does their best. Not everyone betters their best. And it's the bettering of the best that is important. So what pisses me off about the personal development industry is that people are claiming to say the truth when it's their perspective and their opinion. I mean, if you think you can manifest massive goals without a lot of work ethic, it's not true. It's inaccurate. It's inaccurate thinking. I think inaccurate thinking bothers me so much because it hurts people. You know, if you think putting leeches on you is going to cure an illness, it's going to hurt you. If you still think the earth is flat, it's inaccurate. And you're making decisions that affect yourself and others based on inaccurate data. It really affects. If knowledge is a virtue, then ignorance is a vice. And if you're ignorant and yet you're trying to lead other people to water, they're going to starve to death or starve of thirst or starve of thirst. Yeah, that's what bothers me is people not having the humility that they don't know it all, that you don't really know what you're talking about. Just admit it. Just own that. Like I'm going to know more at 34 than I do now. This is my best guess right now. And I can tell you that I know more than most, but I don't know. I'm not like all knowing, right?
I wonder if people know that they don't know, though. I know some people do, but
yeah.
I think of me back in the day, and it's like, yeah, I've studied personal development and I've read books or whatever. But when I go back, it's like, oh, I know that I didn't know as much about what I'm talking about as I do today. So I think it's, like you said, it's kind of that sliding scale. All right, do you have any other ones, or are we hammering here?
No, I had one last one, and then we'll go. This
I'll
is a
do
long-form
quick.
episode. Number 3, why do you believe so many people never end up achieving their dreams? This is an open-ended one, so go wherever you want with it. Why do you believe so many people never end up achieving their dreams?
Belief. It's interesting. We wanted to do an episode on belief later next week, but this is going to be the one. Because if you don't believe it's possible, unless something drastic happens, it's not. Simple. If you don't believe you can have a net worth of $100 million, it will never happen, most likely, unless you hit the lottery. Because you don't believe that it's possible for you, so you try to do it in another way. I believe that more than anything, because most people don't believe what they want, they are actually capable of achieving. And if you don't believe it, why would you start? You wouldn't risk uncertainty. You wouldn't risk failure. You must believe, Alan taught me this, you must have 3 beliefs as a human being to accomplish something. It is possible. So is it humanly possible right now for a human being unassisted to run 65 miles an hour? No, it's not possible for a human to run 65 miles an hour. Will it be eventually? I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure it will. We keep evolving the way we are. Maybe. Is it possible for you? Well, it's not possible humanly yet. Am I the specimen who can do it? I don't think so. So it's not possible. It's not possible for me. Will it be worth it? And if you don't have those 3 things, so I'll end on this because this is the best I can do. When I was in the hotel room, rock bottom, hopeless, helpless, no hope for a better or brighter future. Did I believe becoming a podcaster and making money was possible? Yes, because there are a bunch of other people who are doing it. Did I believe it was possible for me? No, I did not. At the depths of my soul, I did not believe what we have today was possible for me. I didn't believe it was accessible. I didn't believe I could do it. I didn't know how it was going to happen. Did I think it would be worth it? Yes, because in rock bottom, anything is better than where I was. If I didn't have you in my life, this wouldn't be happening. Simple. Because you are the one who helped me believe in it. And that's it. And I always, for a long time, I didn't say that because I was embarrassed or whatever it may be, but I think that very similar to what you said, there's so many people out there that just say, do it, you got to do it, you got to grind, you got to want it. Yes, those are all important facets of achievement. Then I think the most important, the thing that turns the knob and pushes the door open is belief. And you can have the most work ethic, you can have the best connections in the world, you can have the brightest ideas. If you do not believe it is possible for you, the odds of success, which are already not in your favor statistically, right? They are way, way, way less in your favor. And unfortunately, you most likely will not achieve what you want. I would still be doing what I was doing if I didn't have your belief instilled in me. So that has to be my answer.
Very last thing we'll go. You did believe that it was possible for me.
I knew it was possible for you.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I don't either. But that's why you were able to borrow the belief. With me, you knew you could do it.
Yeah.
You know, and you just did whatever you could to stay in the room. Strong work on that.
So far, so good. I got in early. You know what I mean? I got in early on a small investment, all things considered.
For sure, man. I appreciate that. It's been mutually beneficial in more ways than I can possibly express.
Likewise.
And none of this would exist if we didn't have that belief back then. So it's pretty cool. This was a powerful episode. Thank you for the long form and good stuff.
I enjoyed this very much because I haven't interviewed somebody myself. The last time you and I did something like this, I believe, was probably hundreds of episodes ago, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was really fun. It was really fun to not have you asking questions and me asking questions to the same person, because it always goes in two different ways. So it was very interesting. Next Level Nation, if you are looking for a like-minded community, we have a private Facebook group. Everything you need is in the show notes below. You can click the link. But again, I believe that one of the reasons Alan and I are where we are today, it's because we surround ourselves with other people who talk about, who act about, who live about what they really want. Next Level Nation is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And there's at least one new post every single day. So you'll always have something motivating, something inspiring, something to get you to the next level of your life.
I never used to say this because I didn't understand it, but if you don't have self-belief, I don't think you're going to just naturally grab it or gravitate toward it or somehow manifest it. I think you got to get around people with it. I put it this way, I know for a fact there's no quicker way to get belief than to get around people who believe in themselves. If you're around people who don't believe in themselves, you're not going to succeed at high levels. I used to not say that, but now I do believe that to be true. Next Level Live. Get in a room. It's going to be 49 other people who believe in themselves enough to invest in their own future. Think about that. Your life will change. You know, Jenna, Amy, countless people, their life has been changed forever by getting around people who actually believe in what's possible. And that's what this room will be. I'm telling you, per capita, that room will have more self-belief in it than any other room in Worcester that day. I guarantee that. So it's March 26th. Go to nextleveluniverse.com. The link will be in the show notes. And get your ticket. Bring a friend. Grab a friend. Say, hey, let's just try this thing. Let's try this thing. Okay, tickets are almost gone. Get your ticket as soon as possible.
And if you are in a relationship, bring your partner. Tory Eletto is a relationship expert, been doing it for many, many years. Also, global top 100, top 20
15.
Podcaster, I believe. Yeah. She has crushed it with her podcast as well. And then Dr. Taryn McCarthy is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being who is filled with wisdom, who is filled with knowledge. And then Alan and I we're all right. We're going to talk too. But you can come
do some good stuff.
You can show up for the other people, and you can stay for us. Next Level Nation, make sure you join us tomorrow for episode number 906. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at Next Level U, we do not have fans. We have family. Thank you for the 45 minutes you have spent with us today. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Please reach out.